I initially started this island as a challenge, but ended up loving it so much that it turned into my forever island. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and also welcome to Käffchen, an island inspired by the German countryside, aka my hometown, and one where I tried my hand at a little bit more minimal decorating. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. And here we are. Now, before we walk around, of course, let's go ahead and take a look at the map because it is kind of a lot, I feel like. I have a lot of extra characters, but let's go through it one by one. So of course we have myself, and then as for villagers, I have Hazel, Olive, Grizzly, Butch, Dobie, Kitty, Punchy, Flurry, Dina, and Ozzy. Of course, Flurry, my absolute favorite, has to be on this island as well. And then we also have 4 extra characters. We have Hildegard, we have Klaus, we have Sabine, and Heribert. Now, for those of you who are German or who are aware of German memes, I guess, you might recognize Klaus and Sabine from the Was wird meme.
Wir freuen uns.
Wir freuen uns.
Ja. Schauen wir mal, was wird.
Was wird.
But yeah, I basically wanted to dial up the German cliches here. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the entrance. Now, Käffchen actually is a play on the word Kaff, which is kind of a word for like a tiny little town, I guess, but almost in like a negative way. And then every time you add the CHEN to words in German, it kind of turns it into like a cute and small version of it. And so Käffchen is kind of like a cute version of a small town, I suppose. And at the same time, it also is the cute and small version of a coffee, which is Kaffee in German. And here we've got the entrance. So we've got Hazel and Olive living right here. And this is gonna be like one of the most important aspects of this island. It is mostly flat, save for one tiny cliff at the very, very back just to build a barn. And then what I did is I've built up some house clusters. So you'll always find like little house clusters all over the island with like maybe 2, 3, 4 houses. And they are supposed to represent the little tiny towns. And yeah, I'm just gonna explain like a few of the different areas I built and kind of the concept of the island. So first of all, we have Hazel with her very overgrown yard. She definitely needs to do some, is it called lawn mowing? Yeah, that is definitely overgrown, but honestly kind of cute. And I will also show you the interiors because they are all done. And there we go. Now, one thing you will notice with all the interiors is that they're all essentially the same, but all with very different like aesthetics and colors. But the layout I've always kept the same. So we're gonna have the little shelf unit with the sofa and the TV. We're gonna have the bed in that right-hand corner. We do have this little food setup, always like a table or a counter with some chairs. And then towards the front right, I always added either a workbench or a kitchen so that in the dream, like they could just craft there. And this is Hazel's space. Yeah, I decided to lean into some like warmer wooden tones for her and, you know, make her feel at home with a couple of like red accents because of her hair. And I really like it. I actually had a lot of fun with interiors on this island. And then from Hazel's house, let's actually move right on to Olive's and I will show you that one as well. And here you can see the same layout as with Hazel's house, but this time I kind of lean into sort of like a vintage grandma aesthetic. I always kind of tried to match it to like the color scheme of the villagers. So for her, I wanted to go for some more gray vibes, I guess. And yeah, and she's got a little kitchen here. She's got a little kitchen, some flowers, all the good like grandma core things, of course. All right, and then we'll just move further up along the path. We do have the bug tournament going on, so excuse their outfits or enjoy them if they're cute, of course. And then here by the path, we have some pigeons, you know, snacking on some cookies, it seems. These gyroids just crack me up every time. I really like them. I've actually placed them in a few different areas on the island. And then if you actually dream of this island, of course, you will wake up in the resident services. And to your left, very essential to Germany, very essential to German, I almost want to say culture, is the recycling. So I made sure to build up a little recycling area here. We've got the ABD sort of for clothing. Here's some bottle recycling. And then also there's like electricity stuff, cables and whatnot. So yeah, make sure that you sort your trash into the specific bins, and then we're all good. And then also to the right hand side, you'll find a little random potato field, I feel like, but I really like it. Germans definitely like their potatoes. I certainly love potatoes, so they had to be included. Now, another thing that I did a couple of times is include these little bus stops, because even if the town only has about 360 people living in it, which the town that I grew up did actually, there is a bus stop. There is always a bus stop. And then here we have our first extra resident with a little bit of an outside barbecue situation, and of course more recycling. This is actually Klaus's home, and let's also take like a quick peek in. This will be the only extra resident house that we visit though, because they all kind of look like this. Yeah, they're a work in progress. There's some cockroaches, maybe, perhaps. Oh, not anymore. Got rid of them. But basically, I did not take care of the extra resident houses. All the other ones are decorated, though. All right, and then from here, let's actually take like a very quick detour onto the beach. Most of the beaches on this island are basically just like this here. So pansy sprouts, some weeds, and then also some seaweeds. This is the only one that has a couple of extra decorations. We do have the campsite over here with some clotheslines, and then we have a little bit of a camping setup almost. So a camping cookware, some cans, very essential. And then over here, we've got the little picnic where you can enjoy the snacks and the what seems to be like vegetable muffins and a cake or something. So yeah, I feel like camping, at least for my childhood, is like a very essential memory as well. So I wanted to kind of make an area for that one too. And then I also just created this tiny little section here to relax if you want to. And then here in the back, you can see honestly one of my favorite areas on this island, and also very much one I feel like that describes the island. It's kind of like a field or like a farm sort of thing. And this is almost like a, well, canola field, or it could also be corn, I guess. I did like use a mixture of the sugarcane and then tulips and hyacinth, and this was like a very essential thing to build on this island, because essentially I wanted to challenge myself to decorate in a bit more of a minimal style. Now it's still quite full, I definitely can see that, but something that I haven't done before on my islands is actually leave open tiles. Like you can see here in between, I've left quite a few of those tiles open, and that was one of the things I wanted to achieve. And I actually ended up loving it so much that I feel like this will definitely influence my future islands. In case you're a bit more interested in the process and progress of this island, I did just post a video about that, which I will of course link down below, and also probably at the end of the video. But yeah, I actually really ended up liking it, and I decided to just kind of go with a few calmer ideas. On the right hand side here, I added some solar panels recently. We also have those like popping up everywhere. Sometimes if you're on the train like going somewhere, there's just going to be like an entire field of simply just solar panels, which is quite awesome. So I also wanted to give those a little moment to shine. And then right here, we're basically entering like the next little house cluster, or like a tiny town or something. And in this one, we've got Butch over here, Gracely over there to the left, and then my own house there as well. And Butch, as you know, as any like actual German, I guess, has a car cleaning front yard. This was my life for about 22 years or so, living at my parents', because my neighbor was absolutely obsessed with cleaning his car every single Saturday morning at 7 a.m. So I would just have a grand time like every weekend waking up, you know? But so I definitely wanted to, I guess, honor that very German cliche too of cleaning your car and taking care of that. And having said that, let's also take a look at Butch's interior. Now, I would say his interior is much more cozy than his exterior with the car cleaning. For him, you know, because of like the orange, I wanted to go like cabin vibes, sort of. I did also give him like a stone wall here, but apart from that, it all is very like warm wooden accents, some like vegetables, some like farmer's market vibes almost, and a lot of books too. Yeah, because I mean, he looks very smart with his little vest, right? All right, and then we'll move on over to the left-hand side here. Before we actually go over to the other houses, because this is a tiny little hiking trail. Now I've squeezed this into like the areas in between, so it doesn't really give off that like super like hikey vibe, but I kind of still wanted to include this because this once again is almost like a bit of a memory. So close to where I live, we have this like one tree that people always like walked towards to. It was like a huge massive tree, and at some point they had to cut it down because it was like, well, I guess it was almost like collapsing on its own or something. So they cut it down, but then they put up this like sign to kind of as like a memory, I guess. And so this is what that's supposed to be like. Obviously it's not as grand and special here, but it's kind of like a cute little area and it's a fond memory, so why not? And then also very important, once you've reached your destination of this bench, you can take a look at the little floofs. We've got some floofs roaming on that little farm over there, which I love. I love sheep. I don't know, they make me very happy. Now, I feel like you see them more in the north of Germany, and not so much. So I grew up like in the center, and now I live in the south. So I don't see them as much now, unfortunately, but I still wanted to give them a moment. Of course, I needed to include some ducks. No specific reason, but ducks are just adorable. Hello. And then over to the left here, we have Grizzly. He lives very close to the sheep. I just thought about the fact that he is like a huge brown bear living next to a farm of sheep, which might be a bit dangerous. It's fine though. Grizzly is a very kind soul, so I'm sure it's fine. He just has a couple of accessories for his front yard, so he's just drying his clothing. And again, same thing here. Let's go ahead and also take a look inside. And of course, Grizzly had to have a pretty like dark, woodsy, rustic interior. So he's got a stone wall, and then he's also got this accent wall with all the wood. Can you imagine the smell in here? And then he's got some hearty stew and some bread, that bedding that kind of matches his like outfit and stuff, and just I don't know. I feel like I could definitely see him living here. You know what I mean? And then from here, we will head on over to the right-hand side, which is my own house. I customized it in a way that it truly looks very German. We, of course, have some recycling going on. Hello. Apparently someone did litter though, so I got to pick that up later on. And then what I did for my own garden, I guess, is, I just did like a little produce garden, like an actual, like very organized produce garden. I'm growing my own vegetables. I'm growing my own potatoes, of course. Hello. And then we've just got the garden faucet here with the bucket, and then once again some very, very low-key beach decorations. Do you decorate your beaches? Because a lot of times I'm gonna be honest, I cannot be bothered. And then I would say, before we continue with the tour, let's also go ahead and take a look inside my house. I actually did this interior a while back, and when I logged in the other day to finish this island, I was kind of surprised because I actually really like it. So the first room here is kind of like the main room. It's like a kitchen, it's like a dining room. It also has a little entry hallway, and I have blocked off all the 3 other rooms here twice with like the curtain partition so that there is like a room there, but you just can't go there. I've also left a couple of boxes around, and then here we've got the little kitchen, very cute in like that corner. I actually really like this. I might like recreate this at some point. And then also my little dining room situation. I'm basically watching some cat videos, it seems. Someone in my Twitch chat recently sent me like an AO3 custom design, so I might actually have to update my DA at some point and add that on there. But for now, this is good. I'm watching videos of cats. Why not? Of course. And then the other room that I've blocked off is actually with some partition walls. But yeah, very cute, like cozy sort of room. And let's also take a look at upstairs. Now this one is basically my bedroom slash streaming room slash living room, I guess. So first of all, we've got my bed over here, just with a little shelf situation, and then this like room partition. I did also include quite a few switches, of course, and then my PC and sort of like my desk, I guess. It doesn't specifically look like this. There's a bit more technology involved in real life, but this is like the sort of bridge between accurate and cute, I think, so that's all right. And then we also have the little sofa moment, or like living room moment here, another switch, of course. And I also made sure to include like a little plant corner because I do like plants. I feel like I haven't been the best at taking care of them recently, but I still absolutely love them. And so I wanted to also give them a little moment in my interiors. And now let's look at the basement. For the basement, I also wanted to create that typical German basement, or at least the way I imagine it, or like I grew up with. So on the one hand side, we do have like a bit of food storage. There's some beverages, some like cans, and just any sort of like storage, like a pantry moment. Of course, we do have like decorations here that we currently don't need. There is some magazines, there's the Christmas stuff, pumpkins, a garland. There's some cobwebs too, because, you know, it happens, unfortunately. And then on the other side, we have, some old clothing. We've got the bike storage, and then boxes and just any like tools or things that we don't always need. A little camping thing here too. And of course, recycling. The recycling is here as well, which is not necessarily in the basement. I feel like it's more like outside. Like if you truly live in the countryside, you're gonna have it just outside of your house, I guess. But it felt like a good moment here. I can't lie. And then let's go back to the tour. Wow, the stones just glitched in. Did you see that? So I'm actually visiting on the Switch 2 because I specifically didn't want there to be any lag. But apparently, even the Switch 2 can't handle this island, even though it is more minimally decorated compared to my other islands. But oh well. Okay. We also have a little bit of a backyard moment for Grizzly still. He does have his own car and also his own bike here, just as a little bit of a filler moment. And then before we look at the glorious potato farm, we're gonna go over here because I decided to turn this section here. You can park your bike, of course, and then you can kind of go into the forest. And this is like a mushroom forest. Again, this is also pretty full because I feel like for some areas it made sense to kind of clutter it up a bit more. There's maybe like a bit of a, I guess like a bench, or this is just a tree. And this is also my peninsula, which I just decorated with like some flower clusters essentially. But I wanted to create a mushroom forest because my parents always actually go like mushroom, what is it, picking, foraging. And I think a lot of Germans do that. So I wanted to kind of bring that here. Also, disclaimer, please only do that in real life if you absolutely know your mushrooms, because it can also be quite dangerous and I don't want anyone to get poisoned or anything. So just please be very, very certain about that. And then here's the flue farm that we just saw from the other side. And then what can I say? I added another potato farm, this time with a couple of wind turbines. And what I also did, of course, the tractor and the sign, but what I also did is I used the beehives. I think is that what they're called? Beekeeper's hive or something, these little houses here, because a lot of times, especially I think in the north of Germany, sometimes there's potato farms and then just on the side of the road, or also sometimes inside like a town on just by like a house, there are these little like boxes with like potatoes inside, and then you can just kind of take a net of potatoes out and leave some money there and purchase some awesome potatoes that way. Honestly, if you ever see these in Germany, I would highly suggest getting some because those are some of the best potatoes, honestly. Okay, and then we're gonna be heading on to the main shopping street, I want to say. So like I said earlier, I grew up in like a tiny town with about 360 people living there. And the only thing that we had literally was a bus stop. So whenever we wanted to do our shopping, we had to either drive into the next town, which was a bit bigger, or of course we had to drive into the city. But so I also wanted to kind of make this slightly bigger town vibe where there's like a farmer's market. And so of course we have Able Sisters here, some more pigeons, of course. We also have the museum and we have the Nook's Cranny here, and then a market in the center. And then I tried to kind of do different stalls. So on that left side, or just in front of us, we have like the vegetables. And then on the right-hand side, we've got some fruit and also some like candied fruit and stuff. And then just back here, we have like a little coffee stand because of, Brewster and stuff as well. And then you can also get some muffins. And then over to the right-hand side, we just got the deliveries coming in for the farmer's market because, they arrive every day, they unpack, they sell their stuff, and then they basically have to pack everything up again and rinse and repeat the next day. And then also over here to the left, we have a specific like apple stand because we'll be heading on to the apple orchard. And this right here is the one cliff basically that I have on this island. I'm gonna try to maybe show you real quick on the map. That is the only cliff that I built up right there in the back, you know, just to kind of make the barn building a bit nicer. And then this is my apple orchard. There was actually also a no commentary long play for this one. And then you can kind of, I feel like this is probably the best place to kind of stand and take a look at the apple orchard. You can also stand here and think about apples. We got a tractor, of course, harvesting, and then lots and lots of apple trees, that barn in the back, and then also these like apple crates. Talking about these, by the way, all the codes can be found on my website, which is sparksby.com/käffchen. I will link it though, because I feel like it is a bit complicated with the dots, or like the AE, I guess. But yeah, the apple orchard honestly continues all the way until the left-hand side, and also continues a bit further down. There's also this little moment here where you can taste the apples, because you know, if you've got an apple orchard, you gotta do quality control, really. And you might have already spotted it, we have the next bus stop, which also means we have the next town cluster. This time there's only 2 little houses, or well, I say little, one of them is actually a very big house. Actually 2.5, I want to say, because there is a little bit of a construction plot in the back. This is Sabina's house. Sabina is the other half of the meme couple, and she's got a little flower garden with some garden gnomes, and she's got some clotheslines, and she's got some recycling. She's truly living that German life, although I feel like I actually haven't seen that many garden gnomes. But I still kind of wanted to add it here, and I feel like it's kind of cute, you know, with the flowers and the gnomes kind of taking care of those. And then we have Dina living over here, who's also joined in the flower game. So she's growing a couple of lily of the valleys, and then she's just got some other farming accessories. I'll also go into picture mode really quick here, just to kind of show you. I think that you can get them both in the frame. But let's see. Yeah, almost. And then towards that back left, you can see, yeah, the construction. So the path does continue and take you onto this yet still empty plot, but there is a house being built. So this neighborhood is being, I guess, extended. And we've got a lot of, I mean, you know, there's beverages, there's like chips, there's a toilet. Yeah, all the essential things for a construction site, of course. And then we also have another recycling area just over to the left. Again, some bottles, some old clothing, and I've also included the yellow mailbox, which is also, yeah, very German. Oh yeah, see, that's also something I had growing up in that tiny town. We did have a bus stop and a mailbox. Before I move on though, and before I forget it, let's also take a look at Dina's interior. To be honest, I think this might be the most Malin interior of them all, with the brown and the green and the plants and that botanical wallpaper, you know. It was super fun to like use all the green furniture. This reminded me a lot of my Swamp Island, which I think actually Flurry's interior on the Swamp Island was the full inspiration for this layout, actually. But yeah, the green and brown, it just makes my soul happy. I don't know. Plants and green really does that. And now we can head down here, which leads you to a hyacinth farm, which I feel like is the other like favorite area of mine. I will also go into picture mode real quick here. So what I wanted to do here, or like I started basically planting rows of hyacinth in like one color, and you can kind of still see it a little bit. So this was like fully white, this was fully orange, this was fully yellow, and so on and so forth. But then I wanted to bring in a few other splashes of color. So I added some blue and some red and even some pink, even though I don't actually love it too much. And I made this hyacinth farm. And again, I feel like this is kind of a thing, probably not only in Germany, but we do have these like flower farms sometimes. And then you can just kind of stop your car on the side of the road. You can like pick your own flowers. Basically, you can make yourself like your own bouquet if you want to. And then you just pay on the side when there's like a little stall. Sometimes there's someone there, sometimes there isn't. And it's all based on like, yeah, mostly trust, I feel like. But I always really love these, especially just like driving past them and seeing all the flowers in bloom. It's like so pretty. So I wanted to also give that a little space. And then just to the front here, before we continue on to the next neighborhood, we also have a pumpkin patch because, you know, you can also sometimes see these here as well. And then over here, we have the next neighborhood, of course. This is actually, I feel like I did move maybe the house in the back like a tiny little bit, but this is actually the neighborhood from like those first 3 plots that you have. I didn't really change it much. Only the villagers did change. To the front left here, we have Punchy once again with some car cleaning. I had to bring that idea back because it was a big part of my weekends, you know? And then before we talk about the others, let's also take a look at the interior. All right, I think from the outside, you kind of don't expect this. And I'm not sure if this vibe like fits Punchy, but with his coloring and then like the accessories that I found for like the blue and white and sort of black aesthetic, I just really wanted to lean into this like modern vibe. So he's got some headphones, he's got some more modern looking furniture, that fish print, I guess. And then also he's got a little modern kitchen right here. And of course, you know, at his table, he's got a laptop and then he's got the periodic table of elements because that makes sense, right? I feel like Punchy oftentimes gets more like kidcore things given to him, which I also think is very cute. I kind of like this too, though. And then from Punchy's house, let's move on to Flurry back here. Flurry is my favorite, but she only has like a little, like, is it like a side yard? But yeah, she's drying her clothing and then she's got a couple of daisies growing in her garden. And then towards the left is basically just the transition to the apple orchard. And same thing here, let's take a look at the inside. Now for Flurry, of course, I also leaned into some more lighter colors and I also gave her that sort of grandma aesthetic. I feel like this is actually the wallpaper that she does have initially. And then for her, I decided to add a couple of like white accents too. Look at how shiny and bright she is. She's so cute. And then something I actually also liked is the little doormat here and the bird in the shelf. They kind of go in the same color family as her eyebrows, I feel like. So I think that kind of works too, you know? And this is, this is Flurry. And then from Flurry's house, we're gonna move on to the last one in the neighborhood. This is Kitty's house. Now, Kitty, I kind of imagine as someone who likes a bit of gossip, right? So she's got like this setup here. She can like sit there with her friends and talk about all the new hot tea in the neighborhood, about what Karen did and what she didn't or whatever. And she's also growing her own flowers and she's also got her own recycling as the good citizen that she is. And then I also made sure to incorporate another yellow mailbox here. And before we go any further, let's take a look at the interior here as well. Now, I definitely don't love pink, but I mean, her sleigh eyeshadow just had to be celebrated in some way, right? So for her, I decided to lean into that. I gave her some pink wallpaper. I gave her a couple of pink accents. And then same thing here. It is a bit more in that grandma core aesthetic. I also actually decided to do some like rustic furniture here. I think mostly because I just wanted to use that bed. But yeah, definitely a shout out to her eyeshadow. And then just in front of the neighborhood, I also actually built up a little park. This is yet another thing that we actually had in our town. I definitely kept some information from you, but yeah, bus stop, a park for kids to play, and a mailbox. Yeah, that was a, exciting time. But so I also wanted to include that. So we've got some very typical things, honestly, just any like games or any like a ball and some horses, just any area for kids to play. I also made a little sandbox here. And then of course we have the area for the grown-ups to also sit and kind of, eat or also play their own like board games and just, pay attention to the kids playing so no one gets hurt. And then from here, we're gonna briefly move on to the right-hand side. We do just have a tiny little duck area, and then we'll pass by Flurry. Hello. And this will lead us to Heribert's place. Now, Heribert is like that grumpy old grandpa, right? He lives separated from everyone else, deep in the forest, and then he still does his recycling, honestly, because important. But then, he's interested in bugs. He cuts his own wood, and he just wants to be left alone. That's it. There's nothing else to it. He just wants to be left alone. He doesn't want to be involved with anyone else. And whenever he does pass anyone else on the path, he just kind of grumbles. So yeah, very important too. And then we will head back onto the road down here past the pumpkin patch and the little park. We've got some more pigeons, of course. And then we have our, I think, last neighborhood. Here's also the little sign indicating, and the bus stop is kind of across the bridge there. And this one is with Ozzy right here. This one here is Hildegard. She is like a very friendly German grandma. She absolutely loves yellow, so everything she has and owns and just appreciates is yellow. And then down here is Dobie's place. He has a more like rustic exterior, I would say. So he's got some crafting, some gardening, some recycling, and then also he does have a little fishing setup right here by the pond. And then we've just got some bunnies roaming. Again, beaches, very, very basic. I didn't want to bother. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Beaches take too much of my brain juice. I really barely put up with the effort. And then here is the little neighborhood overview. Okay, and then also, same thing here. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dobie's interior. Now, this one I actually remember struggling a bit with, and I initially wanted to make it a bit more gray leaning, like gray and blue. But then I didn't find any like furniture that I loved, so I decided to lean more into the brown from like his house exterior, I think. And then I gave him books, lots and lots and lots of books, because I just imagine him to love like reading and writing and just any sort of like very sophisticated thing too. So yeah, this is the vibe for Dobie's house. I think it still ended up being somewhat cute. And then Hildegard's is the same as the very first one that we saw. It just has a little work in progress sign, but we can take a look at Ozzy's interior. And Ozzy has, I guess, also sort of like that grandpa in this case aesthetic. But for him, I decided to go a bit more rustic, but also a bit kidcore. And I decided to lead into the yellow because of his sweater. So he's got a couple of toys, he's got a switch, and some little cutesy decorations, I feel like. And yeah, when you see him walking around, I think it kind of just makes sense, doesn't it? And then I don't think we've talked about Ozzy's front yard just yet. So he has his own little orchard with some pears and cherries. And yeah, he loves taking care of those trees. Just a private little orchard. There's not really much else to say about that. Then we'll head across the bridge here. Again, bus stop, of course, very important. And I've also just included another little space to kind of relax and sit here, look at the ducks, see the park from the other side of the river, you know. And just to the front of this path here, I wanted to make a little daisy field, you know, because daisies like grow everywhere, of course. And so we just got a little daisy field with bunnies, of course. And that brings us back to the entrance. And that is Käffchen. So unexpectedly, this turned into my forever island. Now, I won't like constantly change it and stuff, but I might adjust it here and there if I like feel inspired to do so. I did previously like do a brief winter like moment, and I built like a Christmas market and stuff. But for now, I'm just gonna let this rest on my Switch, and this will just be a finished and completed island to like revisit whenever I want to. Even if like a new Animal Crossing comes out, I'll still have like a fully finished island to kind of go back to and just kind of appreciate and enjoy. And yeah, it is mostly playable. And if I ever do want to do like any bug catching or fishing or whatnot, I can always go to like mystery islands too. But I genuinely love this island. I feel like this is one of my favorites that I've ever done, which is very interesting considering it doesn't feel like such a special theme, sort of. But I guess like the simplicity is the key, probably. I hope that you enjoyed this video and this island today. If you dream of this yourself, you know, I would love to see pictures if that's still a thing that people do. I actually have no idea. Like, Animal Crossing is so old at this time. Maybe no one visits DAs anymore. But I still hope that you enjoyed this island and the video, and then I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.